continue collecting, and remember, stay casual. Welcome back, casual collectors. I'm Steel Wolf
and Spider Kid,
and today we're bringing you a review of the Hasbro exclusive Marvel Legends Iron Man.
Alright, so we picked up this Iron Man on the Hasbro Pros website for the price of $40 to $45. Now he is currently sold out on the website itself. And with all that said, let's take a look at the box. Alright, for box details now. As we look at the front, we can see a pretty cool picture of Iron Man flying up there, which was a nice picture. Well, basically you'll be getting when you unbox, which shows the figure, a couple of hands, and accessories. And besides that, though, we can see the giant Iron Man words right there, and a nice little like window that again shows the figure.
Yeah, I gotta say, I do like that little window. It just is so reminiscent of the old school show and also the comic cards. And I'm talking about like this metal framing right here. I think that looks so freaking cool.
And now if we go to the side of it, we can see again the same picture that was on the front, Iron Man, and it shows the beginning. And it's really cool, like technology, like it looks like a belt a little bit. It's like in the middle of that.
Yeah, that reminds me in the game Marvel Superheroes, when the round starts, when you're fighting Iron Man, that's like the little like silhouette or the little opening to his stage. That's what that reminds me of.
And now if we go to the back, we can see a pretty cool like retro card thing that every single retro card has, which we'll be getting in yellow. It's pretty cool. And another thing also is a little nice little read up of Iron Man right there on the corner.
Yeah, this definitely reminds me of the comic cards back in the day. There was a series of comic cards where they would have like the heroes' equipment, and then on the back it was like a little specs of what the equipment was and how it worked. So that's what that reminds me of.
And then we go to the side again, we see basically the same thing that was on the other side. And now for the top, it basically just follows up from the two sides. And now for the bottom, it is basically the same thing too. That's all I said. Let's see what type of superior tech this is. Alright, and this is everything. And let's take yet another look at box details. Alright, starting off with the proton cannon. It has the same like yellow and like blue thing as it did on the actual in the first box. Once again, Iron Man right there, plasma cannon, and a nice little like look of it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I gotta say it's pretty neat that they packaged it separately. I like that.
Now for the sides, it shows basically the same thing that was on the sides of the original box. And now for the back, it has its own little like window screen of what it is. Every time they do this, it looks pretty cool. And now for the side, it's the same thing. And then for the top, basically just this, just repeated. And for the bottom, is a bunch of Lego stuff with a little Iron Man. And then here is the main attraction itself. Now this just screams like old retro Toy Biz like boxes right here. Because I'm more of like a retro collector fan, and this just, it's just so cool.
Yeah, the retro card ones are always, I don't know, it's something about them that just is freaking cool.
Yeah, because this whole like, just a figure like this, it reminds me of like when they used to have just like, basically like move up and down joints of regular like, figure back in the day.
Yeah, you know, I used to own, back in the day when Toy Biz made the Iron Man armor ones, there were these Iron Man figures that would come with armor. And the armor was like super chrome, and you would be able to put the armor on the Iron Man or remove it. But I used to have them, and they used to come in similar packaging to this.
Now for the back, we get to yet again see the same thing that was on the original box. Alright, with all that said then, should we open this guy?
Superior attack!
That sounds like a yes to me.
Alright, and here is Iron Man and his proton cannon out of the package, and man, I gotta say right away, those freaking colors on Iron Man, amazing. They are so nice and bright and vibrant. They scream comic book, and they just give me so much nostalgic flashbacks of the Marvel superheroes and Marvel vs. Capcom games.
I agree. Like, this is really cool. You should have seen our reactions when we first took this out of the packaging.
Yeah, anyway, alright, with all that, let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of these accessories. Alright, so before we get into the figure, let's take a closer look at all the accessories. And here before you, you have all the accessories that come with Iron Man. So let's go ahead and get started. And right away, let's knock out the big gun here. So let's take a closer look at Iron Man's proton cannon. And right away, this nice gray they have on it, not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. It even got some nice little reflective glare on it, a little bit of a shine to it. And then if you see here right away, this catches my eye, this right here. Look at all this nice sculpt here on these like tubes, mechanical gizmos here. And then we got this nice little red for this little light, or it could be a little knob. Looks pretty neat. Inside of here, as you can see, there's some sculpt in there. That looks freaking cool. Even with some paint there, that looks awesome. A little bit of marbling here, which kind of sucks, but you know, it is what it is.
It also does remind me a lot of NECA.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that NECA puts out, especially like with their Ninja Turtle line.
The whole like the comic accurate one or the game one.
Yeah. Moving on here on details, we have this other cool little gizmo thing right here, this like turbine looking thing with this nice dark red paint right there. That looks cool. Same thing on top over here, this other piece right here. So that looks good. I don't know what those function for, whether it's targeting or whatnot. And back here, it looks like we have a little panel here with some rivets that hold it in place. That's pretty cool. On the other side, looks like we have the same, except for this right here. This is definitely different from the other side. So we take a look back off here on the other side, we have this detail. But on this side, we have this little cool detail though, which that's pretty neat. I love that red. And again, we have on this side that looks freaking awesome. Very neat. Nice sculpted lines. Here's the bottom of it. And we do have a peg hole, and that's because this guy comes with a stand, which is pretty awesome. Further on the front here, looks nice. This nice little cannon type little detail there with also some red there. On the top here, we have a lot more sculpt with some different colored paint up here, which is more like a darker gray. Very nice. It's the same kind of gray they use for the background of this inside there. It looks pretty cool. Some more panels, some pretty nifty looking details up here, and then we get to the main attraction, which is this big old blast cannon thing right here. This looks really cool. I do like that purplish pinkish paint they put in there. Definitely looks cool, and these little red accents make it even much better. So let's go ahead and put this guy aside, and we'll test out the stand here in just a second. Moving on to the next item here, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this effect. Now this effect did come packaged with our Iron Man here, and right away it looks pretty cool. I do like the way it looks. I mean, we got some white right here, but then if you notice here on the tips, it definitely gets a little bit translucent, so that's pretty damn neat.
And sadly bent too.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's kind of warped, you know, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. Especially, it's not as bad as it could have been, I guess. You know, but you can always fix that with some heat, you know, so that's not that big of a deal. And it's obviously it's made out of a softer plastic, so these all bend and they'll move. And then the best part is there is a big old slot here, and if you kind of notice, it's shaped like this because it's supposed to go right into his fist here. So basically, that's the shape of the fist, as you can see. Look, just goes right in there. That is pretty freaking sweet.
And that is because at the end of every single game, his victory pose is him putting his fist up with that effect on.
Yeah, that's like his victory pose when he wins, which is pretty neat. Moving on here to the next effect is going to be this guy right here. And they basically did the same thing as they did with this, is where they added this white paint over the blue translucent effect, which kind of gives it a nice little contrast there, which looks really cool. And this effect basically mimics as if his chest unibeam is right about to begin to launch, where it's kind of building up before it blasts out of his chest. That's what it reminds me of. And again, in the game that Spider Kid mentioned, which is Marvel Superheroes or Marvel vs. Capcom 1 or 2, you can definitely see that effect when he does his ability, which is the Unibeam. Very cool. And this guy does slot right into his chest. So if you can see here, we have actually it's raised up plastic that you can see that's in the shape of his arc reactor, and that's because his arc reactor is a little bit hollow so that you can port that guy in there. And to show you, this is what we're talking about right here on the chest. See there, it's not completely raised up. There's actually a little bit of space, and that is because this guy just kind of ports right in there. Let's see if I can do this in one go here. Okay, so you just got to get it on the right angle so that it fits the triangle of the chest.
Use your technique.
There it goes. And then you just push in, and there it is. See? Ports in very nicely, which definitely gives that figure that effect like he's about to blast that unibeam out of the chest. Very cool. I think the only other thing that would have been even cooler than this would have been if there would have been an actual beam coming out.
The port that effect into it?
Yeah, if there was a little hole you can port this in. But you know what? It is what it is, and I absolutely love this. All right, moving on here on our accessories, we did remove the head sculpt from the figure as you saw earlier, and we did remove the hands just to kind of give you a overall presentation of everything that does come with them. So let's go ahead and go to the head sculpts. So this is the additional Iron Man head sculpt that they gave us right here, and this came out looking pretty freaking sweet. This one right here screams retro to me so much. Like, this is what I think of when I see or when I remember the classic Iron Man costume from the comic books. It would be this head, with the exception of this little detail here. I don't quite remember this, but the faceplate definitely is what I remember as a kid. Very cool. And I do like how there is a lot of detail here too. Look, you can see all this individual sculpt there around the head. Very cool. Definitely came out looking nice. And I gotta say, I love the style of paint, or I love the color of paint they went with. Very bright and vibrant red with that yellow, and then that gloss, forget about it. Very awesome.
Makes it look perfect.
Yeah, like it just literally stepped out of the comic book pages. And the next head sculpt here is we have him without his helmet, and holy cow, man, this thing looks like it came right out of the comics, and also like as if it came right out of the TV show, man. Holy
just by the
cow.
how far we went back in time.
Yeah, look at that, man. Oh, dude, I can hear that Iron Man song from the show. Oh, so classic. Very, very cool.
Now, if I'm correct, though, I think that head is when when he made people believe that Iron Man was his butler, or like his hitman, something like that.
It was his bodyguard that he kept telling everybody, and which they also hinted at in the original Iron Man, or the 2008 Iron Man from that started the MCU, but it was used at the end, and nobody believed it anyway. That was what S.H.I.E.L.D., I believe it was S.H.I.E.L.D. told them, hey, just say that the Iron Man is your bodyguard. And he's like, no one's going to believe that. And then he just came out and said the famous line, I am Iron Man. So, very cool head sculpt. Loving this thing. This thing just screams classic too. Alright, and then for our last Iron Man head sculpt here is this one here. And I gotta say, this is my absolute favorite of the three. This one, to me, was more familiar. And if you look closely, they even added some like light blue or turquoise colored to his eyes. Look at that. It's very subtle, and it's a very small little space to paint it, but they did a great job with that.
That's one of the only face that had it, though. The other one didn't.
Yeah, the other ones were just kind of like hollow, where you couldn't really see anything, right?
Yeah, especially on the other hand.
Yeah, but this looks very cool, and the touch of blue, man, love that. But this one just reminds me so much of the Marvel Superheroes game, and also the Marvel vs. Capcom games. Very awesome. Alright, next thing here, we're going to go into the last of the blast effects here, and that's this guy here. So this is basically just your blown up version of your Iron Man blast effects that usually come packaged with Iron Man, or like his boot rockets, that, you know, the effect that goes on his boots. But they basically blew this one up, and they did that so that you can port it into the cannon itself. So if you see over here, they actually added a big peg hole there. And so yeah, so that's basically so that you can port this, you know, blown up version of the blast effect into the cannon right here. Goes in right there, which looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, it looks good, but it just looks kind of wimpy, especially when you have this gigantic contraption and all it's blowing or all it's blasting out as this little tiny guy. I definitely feel like it should have been a bigger blast, but you know what? At least they gave us something, so I can't complain too much about that, so not bad.
Well, you can actually add some stuff to it if you also wanted to. All you would do is just take this little part off right here that comes with every like Iron Man blast effect, and you can put it onto one of the cannons like this.
Oh, yeah.
So presumably, if you had like, I don't know, a couple, you could put like more on there, or how many you want, and then have the big one in the middle. Be more and more like, give it more of like a powerful effect.
It's gonna be a little tight though because of the radius, the blast radius thing. See how it kind of pushes it aside, but so yeah, you can put these in there. I mean, that's a pretty good idea. Yeah, look at that. That don't look too bad. I mean, obviously we're missing two more, but I mean, you get the idea of it. Looks pretty cool. And then this, obviously the bigger one would just kind of sit right in there. You just got to kind of maneuver it, but it would sit inside of it. So yeah, you know, it kind of looks something like this. You know, you just got to get more of these little smaller blast effects, and you can kind of just port them around. Just move them around so they look, you know, how you want it to look. But that's something, you know. At least they gave us something, so not bad. And last but not least, on his accessories, we have here the clear stand that they gave us. So this guy right here is going to be basically for the proton cannon. And you basically just port that guy into the hole that's on the bottom of the cannon here. So let me just turn this guy around, and right there, as you can see, big old hole there, and that's for this guy here. And then we just basically peg it in there, just like that. And then we basically just now is a matter of balancing it out. And there you go, just like that. And here's what Iron Man looks like with that hand effect. All right, and here's what he looks like with that chest blast effect. All right, and here's what he looks like holding the proton cannon. Now, obviously, you're going to have to use that stand because that cannon is way too heavy for him. But regardless, that is looking pretty sick. All right, so let's go ahead and get into some closer details on this figure. So let's go ahead and start with this head here. And right away, this is a pretty cool looking head. We mentioned this earlier, but man, you gotta love that turquoise, that bluish color in the eyes. Nice paint applications too. Looks really good. You gotta love that vibrant red and that yellow, and together it looks great. Got a little bit of detail on the side of this helmet here, looking good. Nothing much on the back. A little bit on the top there, a little bit of sculpt, that looks good. Before we move on, let's go ahead and try on the other heads that he came with. And here he is with the other head sculpt there, looking pretty sweet. Yeah. And this head right here actually has some detail right here on the side, as you can see, some sculpting there. And that goes all around the head there, so pretty neat. And these sculpted lines up here are actually painted versus the other head. This one here that we had earlier, this one did not have that top there painted, but regardless, that looks good. And instead of these eyes here having that turquoise bluish color, these ones actually have a red, but that looks great either way. And let's go ahead and try on his last head sculpt. All right, and here we have his unmasked head or unhelmeted head, and this looks pretty great. Look at that hair sculpt, that looks awesome. Definitely looks like a retro classic Iron Man that I remember from that TV show, so definitely looks good. All right, let's go ahead and move on. All right, moving on here, let's take a look at the chest here, and again, they continue with this vibrant red, very, very shiny red. Kind of symbolizes metal a little bit, but it looks great if you ask me. And then we have his whole arc reactor here in the middle here, and this one, as I mentioned earlier, it seems like it's pushed in, or this part right here on the edge is raised out, but that's only because it's a port for that blast effect. But I think that looks great, and especially since you can port that effect, even better. So very cool. Down here we have a lot of musculature here on the abdomen area. Very nice, some obliques, some abs, looking good. Down to the actual waist here, we can see a lot of detail on his quote-unquote belt buckle here with a little bit of different paint, which is that yellow. That looks pretty good. And that basically wraps all the way around here, as you can see. A little bit of sculpted lines right here, right above his butt. Looking good. Since we're back here, let's take a look at the back. And not much detail, but there doesn't need to be. The more things that we can see is actually just more musculature on the back, which looks great, by the way. Here we have the back of the arms, again, more musculature, which looks good. Same with that arm. And since we're back here, let's just move down. There's the back of the thighs, got a little bit of sculpted lines there, looks good. Down to the calf area, some more sculpted lines, that looks really good. Let's take it back to the front here. Moving down the front of the thighs, there goes more of the continuous lines there on the sculpt of the thighs. Looks good. Here on the side of the thighs, let's just move this arm out of the way. On the side of the thighs, we got this cool little detail here. So that's pretty neat. A little bit of armor looks like, or added armor, something like that. Looks good. Here we go with the knee pads. These look good as well. Very nice. Here are the front of the shins, or the boots. Here we have a little detail on the side, that looks great, and that looks great. And here are the actual feet, not much done to the feet, but there doesn't need to be. Looking good. Here are the bottom of the feet, no treads, but we do get peg holes. And back to the arms here. On the shoulder here, we have some sculpted lines, that looks good, as you can see there. More musculature on the biceps there. And it does look like he is pinless on his arms here, so that's good, that's awesome. And down to the wrist area here, we have this cool little detail here on the forearm. That looks great. More sculpted lines to symbolize his gauntlet that he's wearing. And here are the hands, and that looks great too. Look at all that detail on that. So that looks awesome. Same thing with the other hand. Very nice. Here he is with his two blast effect hands. Basically, the palms facing up, and you can add these blast effects. Now, again, these blast effects did not come with this Iron Man. You can basically use any blast effects that you've gotten with previous Iron Man figures, but it definitely looks good. And if we remove the blast effect here, we can actually see that there is detail on the hand itself. I mean, look at those fingers. That looks great. And we got a little bit of paint around this peg hole here, so that's pretty cool. Definitely looks good. And the same thing goes for this arm here. And here he is with his weapon holding hands, so that you can either choose which hand you want to actually have him hold the proton cannon on. So that's pretty cool. They give you two different ones. That way he doesn't always have to hold it on the right or on the left. So pretty neat. And again, you can still see that he does have a little bit of paint detail right there on the center of his palm. So that's pretty neat. And it also goes for the other side too. And again, the sculpting lines on those hands and those fingers looks great. And finally, we just wanted to show him with his two-fisted hands on. So really cool that they gave us two-fisted hands. I hate when they only give you one or they give you no fisted hands. Fisted hands should always be a standard issue with any action figure. Back down to the legs, he is pinless as well on the legs, so completely pinless. And that's going to do it for all the details on this Deluxe Retro Iron Man. Alright, so let's go ahead and move into some articulation. Let's go ahead and start with the head here. He can turn left, he can turn right, and he can go a complete 360 Exorcist style. He can look up, not very much as you can see. So that's about as much as he can look up at right there. And he can look down about that much. So again, not very much on the up and the down. I mean, maybe if you pop the head off and you shave a little bit off the actual head area there where the peg hole goes in, you might be able to get a little bit more movement. But that depends if you want to actually do the kind of custom to your figure. But regardless, let's go ahead and move on. Can you do a head tilt? Let's see. Not much on the tilt of the head. A little bit there, you can see it. And does he have a pile driver motion? Let's see. Tiny bit of a pile driver motion there, not much. Moving on down to the actual arms here, let's go ahead and just put them in a standard T pose to see how far up you can get those arms. And there you go, that's about as far as they're going to go right there, so not too shabby. And of course, these arms can go a complete 360 around, as you can see there. He does have a bicep swivel, as you can see, and he does have actual double jointed elbows that go into about that much, so that's not bad at all. Now the only thing too is that he is missing or does not have any kind of butterfly joints, as you can see. So let's see how far you can actually reach inward here. So let's bring that all the way in, just like that, and let's bring in the other side in, and we'll see that's about as far in as he's going to go, just like that. Yeah, that's as far in as he's going to get his arms there. So you can always tweak it by moving the bicep in, and you can get a little bit more range of motion this way, as you can see there. So it's not too bad, but I would have definitely liked to have seen butterfly joints on him. Let's move down to the arms. He doesn't have any kind of forearm swivel there, but he can swivel at the wrist area here. There is a hinge that will go up and it will go down, as you can see. So here's up and there is down. There you go. Moving on to the actual torso area, he does seem to have an ab crunch, and you can crunch forward about that much. And you can crunch back about that much. He does not have any kind of tilt on his actual waist area there, but he can rotate on the waist, complete 360. Moving on to the legs here, he can kick up about that much, which is pretty good, and he'll kick back about that much. He does have double jointed knees, as you can see here, that will go into about that much. Continuing on with the legs, he does have an upper thigh cut, as you can see here, and he also has a boot cut, as you can see there, or a calf swivel. His feet will kick down about that much, and they will kick up about that much. And then obviously he does have ankle pivot, as you can see here. And that's going to do it for articulation. Alright, final thoughts. So my final thoughts on this guy. Is he cool? Hell yeah. Super cool. Is he retro? Absolutely. He looks just like how I remember him from the old Iron Man cartoons. I'm especially very fond of this particular design because I grew up with the whole Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter, and so on, and loved those games. And this guy just screams from those games. Like, he comes from those games. So very freaking cool for me personally. I really, really love this figure. Definitely love the fact that he has 3 head sculpts. Love the fact that he's got some blast effects. And then we even get the proton cannon. Forget about it. Freaking awesome. Never did I think we would get the proton cannon, but love the amount of accessories. Love his look. Love the paint applications. A little bit steep on the price, but he was marketed as a deluxe, so I don't know, $40 still a little bit high. Actually, like 45 closer to it with shipping, handling, and taxes and all that. And that's that I got mine straight from Hasbro. But right now, currently, you can find them on Amazon for $40. The only thing is though, bootleg, not a bootleg, it's kind of up in the air, so who knows. But if you want to risk it, you can get them for $40 on Amazon. My only complaint that I have when it comes to actual articulation is going to be that he didn't have any butterfly joints. I think butterfly joints would have made this guy even better. I love the way that he has the pinless arms, the pinless legs, and the articulation we get with everything. It's just, man, what I really have liked to have seen the butterfly joints to help with more fluid movements for this guy. But other than that, love it.
I agree. I think this is a pretty good figure. It matches well with the games and the show. And I do like how it is pinless. The only problem I really have with this is just that it's a reused body from, I don't remember what wave it was, but I do know it was already made. So it does kind of suck seeing that it doesn't have any butterfly joints or
Are you talking about the Iron Man that had that holographic head?
No, it was like I think it was from the movie or the games that had, it was like it was a dark red with like a gold on it. It's a reused body from that. I think the only difference was just the colors in that it's not pinless, and then the whole like arc reactor thing. But besides that, though, it is a pretty good figure. The accessories I like, especially that proton cannon.
All right, it's that time again, folks, for that rating. And as always, on the left there, so I'm going to go ahead and have to give this guy a rating of...
And my rating's gonna be
All right, and that's going to do it for our review on the Marvel Legends Deluxe Retro Iron Man. I'm Steelwolf.
and Spider Kid.
Continue collecting, and remember, stay casual.